truth, beauty, freedom, and love. That's basically it. It's a life of pursuit. You're pursuing those things. That's the only conversation I really want to have. I want to talk about things like that. What is true? What is beautiful? What is love? Where is love? What am I in love with? And freedom. How do we help each other be free? How do we expand freedom for everybody?
Welcome to the BoldBrush Show, where we believe that fortune favors a bold brush. My name is Laura Ringel-Bear, and I'm your host. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we are a podcast that covers art marketing techniques and all sorts of business tips, specifically to help artists learn to better sell their work. We interview artists at all stages of their careers, as well as others who are in careers tied to the art world in order to hear their advice and insights. On today's episode, we sat down with Mark Shasha, a vibrant, passionate artist whose life embodies the true spirit of creative pursuit, weaving together illustration, painting, and storytelling with an infectious joy and unwavering commitment to artistic truth. Mark shares insights from his artistic journey, emphasizing the importance of pursuing passion and staying true to oneself as an artist. He offers valuable advice about the creative process, highlighting the need for artists to be critical of their own work and continuously seek personal growth and connection. Mark emphasizes how creativity is not just about technical skill, but about capturing the essence of life through his Bohemian philosophy of pursuing truth, beauty, freedom, and love. Throughout the conversation, Mark shares his experiences of navigating the art world from being a starving artist to becoming a successful painter and illustrator, demonstrating that persistence and genuine passion are key to artistic success. His approach encourages artists to focus on connecting with others through their work, viewing art as a means of expressing deeper truths and human experiences. Finally, Mark tells us about his upcoming participation in the Cape Ann Plein Air event in October and his plans for studio work in the summer and fall. Welcome, Mark, to the BoldBrush Show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Laura. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm so excited to have you because it is so fascinating to me that, of course, your personal fine artwork is gorgeous. And you are someone who definitely captures the joy in your work. And then, of course, I didn't know that I had actually seen your work since I was a child because you have, the Night of the Moon Jellies, which I definitely saw when I was a kid. And it is a gorgeous, gorgeous work. The story, the drawings, yes, of course, yeah. So I'm excited to have you.
Well, thank you very much. I didn't realize you've seen Night of the Moon Jellies. That book has been, for those that don't know, Night of the Moon Jellies is a children's book that I wrote and illustrated about my a day in the life of working at my grandmother's hot dog stand when I was growing up in New London, Connecticut. And she had this little stand, very small, on the side, right alongside the river there, and it was waterfront. Anyway, it was fun, and I loved it. I loved my grandmother, and that was a day in the life of that, of something that went on for me, and when I was 7 years old. Somewhere over here. Give me a second. I'll see if I can find. I might have. I'm right next to my bookshelf here. Okay, here it is. Yeah. Ta-da!
Oh, yes.
I've been on the bestseller list for on and off for like 30 years in the United States.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what should we talk about? There's so many things to talk about.
Yeah. Well, of course, I mean, I'm very, very curious about you, and it's very typical for me to want to ask this with every artist that I interview, which is, when did you start to follow the path of the artist?
Well, I mean, it's hard to kind of do the whole how did you get started thing for me, because the only thing I've ever done is art. I've only done the arts. So when I started out in the short version of a very long life of twists and turns there, I mean, I always loved to draw, like most artists will start with that. They'll tell you that. I used to love to draw. And in my own life, as a little kid, I mean, I've had crushes when I was a little boy. And so I would do these little drawings of me being a superhero, saving my, the girls that I had a little crush on. They never knew this, but like I'd do a little drawing of like dinosaurs coming, and I would have my cape and I would protect them. And so, and I would put their little names like Kathy or Louise or whatever. So I started doing drawings, little stories like that when I was a kid, like 6, 7 years old, 8 years old. And then just continued. I never grew up. I'm still, drawing pictures. And I went off to art school and the whole rest. I mean, I love drawing so much. Um, and I guess I was pretty good at it. The local newspapers had me illustrate for them when I was like 14 years old. So I've been doing illustration and painting for almost like 50 years, easy. I could easily say that. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
It's
And
nuts.
it's yeah, it is nuts. And also it's like the youthfulness that you have, right? Because just talking to you, there's a youthfulness to enjoy that I can see in you and in your work and in every
I never grew up. I never
yeah.
wanted to. People said, you better get, like, I remember one time I had a friend that had a father who, back when I was getting out of high school and I had to figure out what school to go to. I told him I was going to go to art school. Turned out I was a reluctant art school student. I was like, really? I got to go to art school? I'll tell you, if you're interested, I'll get into that. But that my my buddy's dad said, well, what are you going to fall back on? It That's not going to work. You can't be an artist. And I just smiled and I thought, there's really nothing else. I thought to myself, there's nothing else I'm going to do. I mean, art is the only thing I see myself doing. But I thought, well, maybe I could be a singer instead, or actor. I never considered a real life, like quote unquote real life. The last time I had a job where I got a paycheck, Ronald Reagan was president.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So did I answer your question? I mean, look, I could go so far in all over the place, but I don't want to. It's how to,
No, but I find it so fascinating because again, just with that friend's parent just mentioned like, oh, but like what are you actually going to do? I feel like that's something a lot of us artists get. And especially, before, right? I feel like before the internet really took off, right? Because now we're in a time period where it is feasible to be a working artist, right? Back then it was like, oh, you're going to starve, right? But of course, I'm sure you didn't. And many other artists
oh,
who were able
yeah,
to do it.
I was a starving artist for sure. I mean,
Okay.
I was even homeless for a couple of nights. I mean, way back when I got out of art school, when I was in art school, um, gosh, I went to the Rhode Island School of Design, and I had some amazing teachers. I mean, there were teachers all over the place, great, great people. Like Chris Van Allsburg was one of my teachers, kind of a bit of a mentor in the end. Chris Van Allsburg, for those that don't know, wrote the Polar Express, Jumanji, children's books like that. And I had wanted to I just had to do art stuff. I had to paint or make movies or act or draw or something. And when I got out of art school, I mean, I didn't really know how to make a living at that was all general. So I started, before I got the illustration sort of little spot jobs, Boston Phoenix and the Boston Globe and newspapers and magazines like that, I used to do little spot illustrations. Before I did all that, I mean, I was just like waiting tables and trying to get by. And I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes because I had no money, and cigarettes uh, kill your taste buds. So it kills your appetite. So you don't get hungry. I mean, I smoked so I wouldn't be hungry. I worked in restaurants because that's where the food was. And I was a terrible waiter. I got fired from every waiter job I had. I was really bad at it because I'm a daydreamer. And people would look at me like, well, why aren't you going to that table? And I was trying to figure out, how do you paint that color green on that tree out there? I mean, you know,
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's so
I'm going to ramble too
so
much. I mean, there was one night like I said, when I moved to Boston, I had no money. I didn't come from a family that, gave me money. My father was a lawyer, but he wasn't. He didn't have a lot of. You know, like I was on my own when I went off to Boston, and I lived hand to mouth, absolutely, and more often didn't have enough money for rent. And back in the 1980s, we're talking about the 1980s. Things were cheaper then, but so like you didn't have to make as much money to get by. But I never stopped drawing. I was always drawing during that time. I had an apartment on Newbury Street, which people think of as, oh, what a rich part of town to be a starving artist. Really? Yeah. Well, it's the Rodeo Drive of Boston, but there was in those days in the 1980s a poor end of the street, and the poor end was the part near Mass Ave. And all my buddies were music people, Berklee College of Music, and some who went on to great fame. Uh, but I had to be around artists. Those were my people. And when I went into my few office jobs, oh my God, I hated it. I was fired from those jobs. I was no good at it. I can't, I'm a daydreamer. I look out the window, I'm thinking up stories, I'm thinking about what to paint or draw all the time. It's nuts. Like
I
I said, I
mean,
never stop, Laura.
yeah, but that's great. I think, there's something, if you can't help yourself in that sense, right? Where like your soul just has to breathe through this medium, whether it's acting, singing, dancing, creating paintings, right? Why stifle it? Like where there's a will, there's a way, of course. I mean, and you did try the practical way, and of course the practical way does have benefits. I mean, it helps you have some money, so you have food on the table at least, and then you have money for supplies.
Mhm.
But the fact that you didn't give
Take a
up
look.
despite yeah, make a living. The fact that you didn't give
Yeah, I
up
mean,
despite, all the difficulties
I,
is amazing.
well, I never, you know what it is? I also laughed a lot. I mean, I laughed at
Hmm.
my poverty. I had buddies we were all a bunch of starving artists, and in those days, if you turn the lights off in a room, you could hear the roaches like going into the trash. You could hear them like, and we would just laugh. We're like, oh my God, we're so poor, and we we just had, you know, but I listen. It never occurred to me to not draw and paint and pursue these things. I'm a very expressive person,
Hmm.
so I'm looking for ways to express my feelings about things and to connect with other people. I mean, I think that a lot of people give up on painting or art because they can't make money at it. But, you know, if your priority is to connect to other people, the money part, it either comes or it doesn't, but at least you're happy because you're connecting to people, and you're laughing at your life, and because you can't take things too seriously. You can't.
Absolutely.
It's too many wild cards in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think that brings back that vision that I definitely see in your work, where it's just this pure happiness or joy or admiration for the world around you. And I think I could definitely see you bring that into just your view in general. And actually, that is the other thing that I wanted to discuss because last time we spoke, you mentioned I want to call them the Bohemian values. And I want to discuss them a little bit more with
Yeah,
you.
right. Well, one of the things I learned, I didn't know that I live by the Bohemian way
Mhm.
until, oh yeah, I mean, me and my buddies, we joked that we're just poor Bohemians in those days. But I saw a production of Moulin Rouge, which one of the greatest productions I ever saw in New York, and it summed up exactly. And I hadn't heard it in a long time, but the Bohemian way of life, okay, is basically, it's not a religion, it's not that serious, but it's a loose kind of thing. It's truth, beauty, freedom, and love. That's basically it. You're looking for truth. You're in it's a life of pursuit. You're pursuing those things. You're pursuing love, truth, beauty, and freedom. And it's a very interesting thing. As soon as I heard that, I mean, yeah, that's me. That's my life. That's what I've been doing. I mean, you fall in love, and you fall in love again, you fall in love again, and you fall in love with, and I'm not just talking about people, but places. You fall in love with ideas. You fall in love with things you want to try. little journeys that you go on, and you fall in love with a certain way of life here and there. When I was a writer or an illustrator of children's books, I loved the life that I was living at that time. But it was fleeting. I didn't stay in that publishing world forever, but I was in love with that world. So the freedom, and that's another one that's important. I mean, I don't know how you can really live your life without freedom. We've got to be free somehow to carry on, and that's freedom to me might not be the same thing as freedom to you. So that's why this isn't some kind of dogmatic thing. It's loose. Everything that's beautiful is not true. Everything that's true is not beautiful. So there's a conversation to be had. So it's a way of living. It's a way of pursuing things that are, and by the way, I mean, that's the only conversation I really want to have. I want to talk about things like that. What is true? What is beautiful? What is love? Where is love? What am I in love with? And freedom. How do we help each other be free? How do we expand freedom for everybody?
Yeah,
And
totally. And it's fascinating because I feel like, and I don't know if maybe you've experienced this while you paint, right? Where when you're working on a painting, right, and you see this beautiful thing that you want to create or recreate, if it's, a beautiful place or a beautiful person or something, there's something beyond capturing them, right? Like you can literally paint them as they are, but I feel like there's something beyond that when you paint them that I think goes much deeper than just, oh yeah, it's this person exactly as they are. It's the truth of who they are, right? Is the truth that I see of them that I'm attempting to capture in my work, you know?
absolutely, that's the holy grail of it all. Trying to get, as the Allman Brothers used to say before they got on stage. Greg Allman used to say, "I just want to hit the note." He didn't mean musically just hit the note. He meant hit the big note, like connect, get get in the zone, uh, and connect with the audience in that way, so that it's a bigger, deeper thing. Yeah, and it's true with painting. It's true with when you're on the stage. Like I've played many things on stages. I've a lot of characters, a lot of roles, and when you're trying to take the art form to a place where you really know you're connecting with people, there's nothing like that. I played Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird for a few months back in a few years ago, and it was the most exciting thing to be on stage, to become Atticus Finch, defending that black guy who was wrongly accused of a crime. And people in the audience came up to me afterward and said they forgot where they were. They didn't realize it. They forgot they were actually. It felt so real to them. Well, how much better can it get than that? That's that thing that you just were talking about. That's that other thing, that extra thing. You're not just acting, but you're becoming the thing. And when a painting brings somebody to tears because it moves them so much, that's not the flower bush. That's not like the ripple on the water alone. There's something else connecting, and I live for that. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get better and better at connecting, people to that. My work. I wanted to do that to people. I wanted to connect.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, that does make me wonder, what is it that you personally seek for? Like when you're let's say you're randomly walking and maybe you see a beautiful place. What is it that really draws you to want to paint something?
I love that question. I don't know.
Oh
I have
goodness.
no idea. I don't know where it comes from. I've been reading this book by a guy named Goldman, who
Mhm.
talks about his years in Hollywood, and he was a screenwriter. He was a screenwriter for Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and the Sting, like not the Sting, but some of the great movies. And he says nobody in Hollywood knows what works. They don't know. If a producer tells you they know what's going to work, they don't know. Uh, uh, Actors tell you what's going to work. They don't know. You don't know until it's all together and it's up there. And I kind of feel that way about painting. You don't know. I don't know why. Like this is one of the weird, this is one of the weird things. I don't know why when I walk the beaches, and I walk a lot of beaches, I live in New England. I'm in a very idyllic little New England town. When I walk the beaches and I see the dunes, I look at those shadows, those little organic shapes, and then I see the water beyond. I don't know why I want that. What is it that's drawing me into that? I could think of some things. I think it's, sometimes it's maybe the angle of the light or the angle of something will remind me of personal life experiences. It'll remind me of when I was a kid, or remind me of when I was a teenager, or remind me of that time I took that long walk on some beach somewhere else. Or it might not remind me of a beach memory at all. It might be remind me of a song, and the song will play in my head, and the song will be something from a ski trip. But I'll have an emotional reaction. I think a lot of what I do is I trust my guts. I trust my senses. Something is speaking to me. I mean, one of the things, I have a lot of stickers on the back of my car because when I get out of a shopping, like if I get out of a store and I got to find my car, I can never find my car because I used to have this problem because I can't tell one car from another. I'm not one of those people that understands cars. Yes, the white car is not mine, but any dark colored car, I might walk into it. I have a blind spot about cars. I don't know. And so I put stickers on my car so I can see my car. So when I get out of the shopping, go get my groceries, I can find my car because I've been walking into the wrong people's cars for years. I know that sounds crazy. Um, but I have a bumper sticker that says, I break for beauty. And that bumper sticker is really how I go about my day. If I see something beautiful, I just trust myself. There's something here. I don't know what it is. I'm going to stop and I'm going to paint it. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to study it. What's going on here? And there might be a snow scene. It might be, I might be at the beach. I might be near cafes. I don't know. Something speaks to me and I trust that and I go with it.
Yeah, and I think you bring up something that's very important. I think that I believe a lot of artists have naturally and can develop it, which is that inner voice, right? That intuition, that vision, right? Where you see the beauty around you and you can find it, right? I think a lot of people who don't really seem to have that natural perspective might struggle to see the beauty in the everyday. But I feel like for a lot of artists, we are naturally drawn to, like you just said, the light is just hitting that tree in that specific angle and it's making the leaves look like this, and the color of the sky right now it's just intoxicating. I have to look at it, I have to capture it, right? And I'm very much, I totally relate. I'm very much a stop and smell the roses type of person, because
Yeah.
I think that's something that we're missing, or are starting to miss more, which I think there is actually a bit of a counterculture movement now where people are slowing down because they're tired of the sudden increase in speed and everything with like technology, which again reinforces the importance of the arts and the importance of stopping for beauty like you do, right? The capturing of that, being in the moment again and not being worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, yes, it's important to keep in mind what you got to do tomorrow, but at the same time, don't let it rule your life, right? Break for beauty.
Right. Well, I think this gets a little bit back to what I was saying before about truth and beauty. Sometimes, and it also depends on what mood you're in. You're not always in the same mood, right? So one day you'll go out and something will appear very beautiful to you. And then another day it won't seem beautiful. It'll seem, but it may still speak the truth. There might be a truth that's attracting you. This might not be beautiful exactly, but it's definitely the truth. And you kind of linger on that. And yeah, stopping, as you say, people I think are trying to always find they're always people are always struggling. This isn't a constant struggle. Technology gives us so much. Like here we are talking miles and miles away from each other. This, thank you, technology, right? Technology
Yes.
makes this possible. But the same technology, you can get caught in a doom loop with the Instagram or, these reels where everything is bad and it's only showing you the bad stuff. You got to get away from that. And TikTok and stuff. And people are addicted. And these are the technology problems that we are facing are enormous. Um, but we do have to remember that you can't build your life. You shouldn't be scaring yourself to death. You got to go out and look for the beautiful things, look for the things that are true, um, look for, you know, and care. You can't help but care, right? So I don't know. You've stirred up a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I mean,
definitely a deep thing.
there's
Yeah.
so much to talk about on that.
Mhm.
I mean, here's the thing. This is what I was going to say. As you mentioned this thing, like we have to stop and see the beauty. But there's a lot of just and this. Okay, I'm going to mention that Goldman book again about screenwriting. I can't remember the title. I'm enjoying the hell out of this book, but he talks about how some movies are like typically movies deal with all kinds of complicated things, and then there are comic book movies and he wrote this in the 1980s, this book. But I found this so fascinating, his comment about comic book movies. Comic book movies are like Star Wars and that sort of thing, where it's a fantasy about what we would like life to be like. It's not what life is like, it's what we would aspire, like Star Trek. It's what we would like life to be like. But he said, real other movies that deal with more important things sometimes, deal with the problem of death and loss. And he said the scariest, even though you think of Bambi as an animated, it's not a comic book movie because he said the scariest thing that he ever heard in a movie was the line when Bambi's mother says after the fire starts in the forest and there's the sound of gunshots. Um, she says to Bambi, um, man has entered the forest. And this is not a fantasy. This is about real life. And then a few moments later, Bambi's mother is shot. I think that getting back to what you said, going out and looking for the beauty in life, very important to do. I try to be aware. Am I, what am I, what is my mood? Am I in the mood to help guide us into a fantasy? Do I want to paint a pretty picture for its own sake? Usually not. I'm looking for the truth in it. I'm looking for that part of it, which is kind of saying, this is about life and death. It's about our limited time here. And you know, let's not gloss over that. I don't
Totally,
know
totally.
if that makes sense. Oh my God, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're good. You're good because that
Wait
brings
a
up
minute, Laura, I'm
well, it just brings up really, because of course there is that like classical la-di-da beauty of like, oh, look at this beautiful thing, which is fine, right? Beauty for beauty's sake. But then there's, things from the past, right? Kind of like and we still do them today, which is like the paintings of still lifes, of flowers, or of perishables, right? Reminding us of the inevitability of their demise, right? They are going to rot, they are going to perish, they are perishables, and they are reminding us like this is a moment in time that we're capturing. And it is a stark reminder of both, that beauty and that death that you mentioned, right? That I would say is also, a non um superhero comic book painting, right? In that sense. Which again, it goes beyond just like, oh, look at this beautiful thing. It's more like, wow, this is representative of the cycles of life that we're
right.
experiencing, right? Every moment is totally new. You can see a sunset at the beach and it's not the same sunset as the one before or the one tomorrow, right? It's totally new. And as
Right.
artists, of course, we're trying to catch that, right?
Well, I mean, the great artist, he was so, people didn't have any regard for him in his time. Well, yeah, they did, but They didn't. I'm talking about Andrew Wyeth. Okay, everybody loves him or hates him or whatever, but I love Andrew Wyeth. I love because he gets right into that. He gets into death. He. But it's not like, oh, let's paint death. He did paint death, but he also painted. I'll give you an illustration of what I'm talking about. I don't have the picture with me, but try to picture. Andrew Wyeth did this drawing, this artwork, this painting. He used egg tempera, and it was not a lot of color. It's very spare. It's a barn window. You're in a barn. You're looking, the window. There's the outside and the inside, and there's like a bowl. There's a basket next to it, and there's no people in it. But there's something so damn powerful about that painting.
Yeah.
It's just, and he did so many like this. I just thought of my grandmother. I thought of my life. I thought of people I knew, aunts, uncles, people who lived on farms long ago, who are gone, who this was their world. It wasn't just the detail, the placement. You can't put it into words. That's why it's a painting, right? But it had life and death. He was no comic book painter, not Andrew Wyeth. People think of him as pretty pictures sometimes. They're like, well, no, 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 no. You got to really look at Andrew Wyeth. And I think as I get older, and I've been around for a long time, artists like Andrew Wyeth speak to me so strongly. I mean, you see the passage of time in his work. He definitely hits the freaking note. He hits it. And Norman Rockwell too, in some of them, like some of them are corny, but a lot of the great illustrators, there was that sort of, oh, well, it's just illustration. It's not really fine art and all this nonsense. And we can get into that, but I think things can rise. They can rise to the level of fine art. And Laura, I should, clarify this because I think a lot of people don't know this. Fine art, when we say fine art, we're not talking about fine, like finery. Oh, it's so fine. That's not what the word means. Fine, in the case of fine art, comes from the root of the Latin word fine, okay? That's the root of it, which is end in and of itself. So, so everything in a piece of fine art has to live within the frame. It has to live on its own, if you will. It doesn't refer to it like when I illustrated children's books, my illustrated art, those were illustrations, not fine art. They were meant to illustrate a book, so they were in the service to another cause. When you make a coffee cup, this is industrial design maybe, or pottery. It is an art form, and it can rise to the level of fine art, but it is a utilitarian art. That's not a knock on it. You get it?
Yes.
It's not a knock to say, oh, well, it's just illustration, or, it's just it's in the service. It is an art form in the service of another art form. And that's what's going on there. Fine art, though, it has to live within the frame. It has to, if it's going to ask a question, it has to propose its own answers. It has to, it's all in there. Is that clear?
Yeah, that is so poetically stated. If you've been enjoying the podcast and also want to be able to ask our guests live questions, then you might want to join our monthly BoldBrush Live webinars, where our guest artists discuss marketing tips, share inspiring stories, and answer your burning questions in real life. Whether you're a seasoned painter or just starting your creative journey, this is your chance to connect, learn, and spark new ideas. And whether you're stuck on a canvas or building your creative business, this is where breakthroughs happen. Don't miss out. Ignite your passion and transform your art practice by joining us. Our next BoldBrush Live webinar is coming up on August 14th with our special guest, Diego Glazer. You can find the sign-up link in the show notes. At BoldBrush, we inspire artists to inspire the world, because creating art creates magic, and the world is currently in desperate need of magic. BoldBrush provides artists with free art marketing, creativity, and business ideas and information. This show is an example. We also offer written resources, articles, and a free monthly art contest open to all visual artists. We believe that fortune favors the bold brush. And if you believe that too, sign up completely free at boldbrushshow.com. That's BoldBrush show.com. The BoldBrush Show is sponsored by Faso. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a website when you're an artist, especially if you want to be a professional in your career. Thankfully, with our special link, faso.com/podcast, you can make that come true and also get over 50% off your first year on your artist website. Yes, that's basically the price of 12 lattes in 1 year, which I think is a really great deal, considering that you get sleek and beautiful website templates that are also mobile friendly, e-commerce, print on demand in certain countries, as well as access to our marketing center that has our brand new art marketing calendar. And the art marketing calendar is something that you won't get with our competitor. The art marketing calendar gives you day by day, step by step guides on what you should be doing today, right now, in order to get your artwork out there and seen by the right eyes so that you can make more sales this year. So, if you want to change your life and actually meet your sales goal this year, then start now by going to our special link, faso.com/podcast. That's faso.com/podcast. And I think, what it really reminds me of is theater, because, the theater frames an entire story, right? You want a scene to have everything you need to tell the story, which I think that's what's really interesting too, because that really differentiates the types of paintings that you see today, which are very much influenced by the camera, and that's totally fine. But if you look at paintings from before the camera, they're much more complete, right? They're much more a setting, a story, but it's implicit and explicit. Of course, you have both. But then also there's it encompasses not just the story, but like you said, that life and death in one place. That's the beauty. And to also, I agree with you with Andrew Wyatt. There's this beautiful wistfulness in his work. It's melancholic, but it's beautiful, right? I don't know if it's, again, as we experience life and we, go through the years, there's that realization.
It's the
exactly.
punch of, truth. We can believe, something can be so true that it becomes beautiful. It's just, and I think we don't have a lot of truth in our common age right now. People use the word authenticity. I want something authentic. I want the real thing. I'm an old hippie. Okay. So I, in the good sense, I was never into the drug stuff, but I definitely, I do think first thought, best thought, typically. Don't carry on to the second thought sometimes it's good to just trust your first thought, because it tends to be the truest thought. If you experience something, you get that first impression of something, sometimes that's the true. It's not always, but sometimes that's the real thing. And we live in an age where a lot, or authenticity is hard to find, because this gets back to the technology. I love the technology. Okay. I love being able to talk with you from this distance. Technology makes that happen. But it's easy to fake stuff. It's so easy.
It is.
And authentic, we yearn for it. We're human beings. We're looking for we don't want to play in the sandbox of pretend crap. We don't want to play in that sandbox for too long. Sometimes it's fun, but once in a while you need the truth to get you by. You get, well, what's true here? And I think artists who dismiss that are making a mistake.
Yeah, totally. And what that also reminds me of, which is so interesting too, because in some forms, and this is a challenge that I guess I'll pose to you, in some ways, some paintings lie, but by lying, they expose truth, right? And that's also what you do as an actor, right? You're pretending to be someone else, and you have different motivations and a different everything, but you're expressing a truth through that, which is very poetic and beautiful,
Well, it's very profound, isn't it? I mean, we have to sometimes bend things to get to express the truth. I mean, that's a whole conversation all by itself, man.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Because how do you play that game without, telling lies? And you don't, the objective is the truth. So how do we do that? And it, you really set me off with that one. I could go on.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that I love about art, is that the conversation, it's all about connecting and conversation. We have these thoughts, what's true, what's beautiful, what's the honest way to do this or that. Um, and that's, for some people, that all sounds very esoteric, because as we may have talked before, there are sellers and there are showers, right? A lot of artists just want to please the, and I'm not going to knock it. Listen, I was one of those people. I mean, I still could be that one of those people sometimes. I don't, it doesn't come naturally to me, but if you're painting, if you're doing things like you're painting pets, and that's what you do, somebody comes to you and says, well, will you paint my dog? Um, I can't do that, but I mean, I've tried, but there are people who can do that. And I think that's wonderful. But what they'll do is they'll paint the pet. They'll say, oh, that's a wonderful picture of, Sandy. I love my dog, Sandy. And this is a beautiful painting of Sandy. And then they sell that painting, and it's all about generating more sales. Tell me more about, who do you know? Who else do you know has pets who might want a painting of a pet? A lot of those artists I've seen can raise that to they do magnificent commissions that way. I have never been one of those people. I'm no good at trying to figure out, what does another person want in this painting. Like, what do you see in your dog? What you see in your dog might be very different than what I'm seeing, and I don't see that. I don't know what you see in this thing. Don't ask me to paint your Chihuahua, because I hate Chihuahuas. Right? I don't want to. I'm sure there are nice Chihuahuas. Not knocking the not you know, but I tend to be a shower. I like to paint something that means a lot to me, and then I want a lot of people to see the painting. I don't want to sell it right away. I want people to see it. And that's why I'm in so many shows. I try to do as many as I can, because I want people to come and see the work. Um, and that's important to me. That's more important than selling it. So I tend to price my paintings a little bit so that they won't sell right away.
It's interesting.
Which make my galleries unhappy. But they understand. We've had this conversation. It's amazing how people who really love art will listen to you, and they'll understand, and my galleries understand this. But they're in the business of selling, and that's what they care about. So hopefully we work out a nice little arrangement. But
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, of course, there's that balance where, like, you of course need money
yeah,
to sell work, but then at the same time there's that, well, I also don't want to lose my personal voice, right? Like, if you're someone who's fine with, selling, like you said, pet portraits, that's awesome, great. If that makes you feel
yeah.
fulfilled and happy, great.
Oh,
If it doesn't,
my
yeah,
hat is off to you. It's not an easy thing to do, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, it's not. I think in general, commissions are some of the hardest things to do as an artist because of that, because there's an element of, well, there's now two people involved, right? There's the buyer and the seller sort of situation, like you said, the sellers. But then if you're a shower like you, it's interesting to be like, okay, I'll have like a painting and I'm just gonna price a little more, because maybe, on the one hand, it won't sell as quickly, but on the other hand, the person who truly does want it won't care about the price necessarily. They'll get it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens to be an incidental thing. Like when you're showing your work and you really care about showing your work, you put that little bit of price a little higher. I mean, that's really an educational moment for yourself as a painter, because if the painting doesn't sell ever and nobody wants it, it's I think it's good to look at your work and be a good critic. I mean, my problem with a lot of art that we see these days is the artist is not a very good critic of their own work. And if you're not a good critic of your own work, you can get yourself into a real trap by increasing your prices before their time. You really have to, you have to, it's a bit of a game. There's there's an art to this, if you will. Like your art, your paintings have to be, uh, you've got to be a good critic of your work. I mean, if you put something up on a wall and it's really not, and it really doesn't work, and you put a high price on it, then what are you showing? You're still a shower. You're still a shower. You're showing your work, but what are you showing? You're showing something that's not working, and that becomes the new you. That's you. That's on you. If you're a painter that doesn't know your work isn't working, and you're putting big prices on it, you're screwing yourself up. So you got to make sure your work is working. A lot of critics, and I'll do this quick review. What I learned at the Rhode Island School of Design, one of the greatest things I learned was how to critique myself, um, how to be a good critic. I understand that. Let's go through it. You don't talk about what you love or what you don't love when you're looking at artwork. You don't say, gee, I really love the way you painted this pink tree. No, because that's about you and what you love. That's not about the art. Oh, well, you broke the rules. The rules say you can't put something in the middle of a painting like that. Okay, well, now we're back to you. It's not about the art. It's about you don't like the rules have been broken. Oh, well, this is the right way to do it, and this is the wrong way. You did it the wrong way. Again, that is not about the work. That's about how you feel about whether, and by the way, you're closing the book. You're saying that's the wrong way, right? You say, this is ugly. That's beautiful. Again, it's about you and your judgment alone, and it's final, right? But if you say, does this work? If that's the question you ask yourself, does it work? And then you open your mind to maybe there's parts of this painting that don't work. It's not a personal attack. Nobody should cry about this. Nobody should be in tears. Nobody said you're wrong, because you might be right. But why doesn't it work? And always go back to the painting. What's wrong with the painting? And when you talk about what's not working in a painting, and if the artist is listening, then the artist can begin their journey on learning how to critique themselves. Um, and that's like one of the most important things to be an artist. I mean, I don't know about success, and I'm not talking about money. I'm just talking about how to be a better artist. You got to learn to critique yourself.
Yeah, totally. And and in some way you are also talking about how to make money, because the foundation is the work itself, right? If you have good work, then it's a lot easier to actually make a profit from it because you have good work, and you have the ability to actually critique it, take it to a gallery. The gallery can also look at it and be like, oh yes, this is beautiful, and we agree, like we'll take you in, right? So in some way it is the foundation for being
Yeah,
able to make money.
if you're interested. Yeah, I think what it is if you're a good critic of your work should get better and better. And if you keep getting better and better, you should um, attract people who want your work. Um, Unfortunately, it doesn't always go that way because it's a bumpy road,
Mm-hmm.
very bumpy road. You might not learn how to critique yourself until late in life, and I think that's the sad thing. Like if you sell a bunch of paintings and you make a lot of money, but you don't know why that happened, and why they were good or why they worked, you're probably not going to be keeping up that same. Your work, it may not continue to work. You could easily fall off a cliff and not know where you are. um, this gets back to the truth. You be honest with yourself all the time. Does this not work, or does it work?
Yeah, yeah. And that speaks to the dual nature of being an artist, which is very interesting because you're looking at your work, right? And trying to find that truth without realizing that you need to find how you're lying to yourself too, right? How you just said, if you're not able to see objectively what's wrong with your work, you are lying to yourself as well, which is really
Yeah, you
interesting.
can't. You can see. Here's the thing. Here's the catch right?
Mhm.
You can express yourself very, very, okay, I'm in a really bad mood, right? And I'm going to take paint. I'm just going to throw it at the canvas. That's the truth. That's how I feel. That's what it is. Oh, here's some bright red. And I throw that at the canvas. You know what? It might work.
Mhm.
That painting might work, but it might not. And but you have to know, have I just expressed myself to myself for myself? Or have I expressed myself in a way that's going to connect to other people? Am I forming connections? This gets back to the first thing we were talking about. I'm all about connecting to people. That's why I like to do group critique. I like a group critique. I think you have to sit with other people who are like-minded as artists, who are serious. You have to put your painting on the wall, and you have to ask the entire group of people, does this work? Does it work? And when they say, well, you know what, this part works, but maybe that's not working, then you have to be as interested in that as the critique. And you have to ask yourself, well, why isn't it working? Why isn't that working? And man, when you get down that lane and you start doing this with other artists,
Mhm.
you can really learn a lot about whether you're connecting. Again, there's nothing wrong with the first scenario where the guy says, I'm mad or I'm happy and I feel love. So I'm going to just paint a lot of hearts today and I'm going to put it on a canvas. Nobody in the world is obligated to look at that and say, I want to buy that. Um, and nobody in the world is obligated to look at it and connect to it. You just did something for you, which is fine. But this thing that you and I are now talking about, we're talking about a life in art. Again, the pursuit is the truth. What's the truth here? I want to know the truth about myself as much as I want to know about the truth of how this is reading in the room. It's all about the pursuit of it. I kind of wonder, like I was saying before, I mean, I'm not sure we ever get to the truth. I mean, you just pursue it. The point is to
Mhm.
pursue it. And I know when someone is pursuing bullshit. We know that. You're
Yeah.
pursuing a BS plan. Congratulations. I can see it. It's transparent. It's BS. And everyone knows it. Well, I don't admire that. But if somebody's pursuing the truth, that is so much more edifying. You might not arrive there and I may not arrive there, but at least you're trying.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. That reminds me of a quote that I really love, which is that the journey is the destination. Because
So,
yeah, because we're never gonna, like you said, we're never gonna reach it. We can only ever really approximate as much as we can, like that, the exponential line that never quite touches the x-axis. It's just
right.
never gonna get there, but it tries. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's I agree. The pursuit is truth. That is,
Yeah. It's just,
yeah.
just go look, seek it. And, I'm not going to say seek and you shall find. But seek and you shall enjoy the journey. It's
Definitely.
a happy, I think it's a happy journey that way. You
Yeah.
know, it's it's always nice to have these little light bulb moments. I mean, not everybody loves that. Not everybody
Mhm.
likes the excitement of a new idea. And they don't like it's upsetting. Like, oh well, wait a minute. I used to believe this, now I believe that. And I think every artist is on this journey of like, well, I look back at my work from the last 5 years, and damn it, what a load of crap that turned out to be. What was I thinking, right? Well, guess
Yeah.
what? You're better off for having that light bulb go off and to be aware than if that doesn't happen. You're better off with that. Let that happen. Go through that pain and look at your work with some critical eye. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a sense of I mean, if you're pursuing truth, right? And you look at your work in hindsight, there should be a feeling of, wow, I've grown so much, right? I've,
mhm,
learned so much more about these things I didn't perceive at the beginning visually,
yep,
right? Because of course, our training as artists isn't just how to paint, it's how to see primarily. So when you
right.
look at old work, it's like, oh man, I didn't see that, and now I can totally see it.
What's funny about this conversation is that I do a lot of these plein air events around the country, and I love these plein air events because I get to sit around and talk to artists because we're all like, these plein air events last about 10, a week or 2 weeks, and at the end of it, we have a great big party, and we bring, they bring buyers in and stuff. But those are the times I treasure, is to sit around and talk about this stuff that you and I are talking about, and we'll just like go into the wee hours of the night with a glass of wine or beer or something, and just talk forever about how to the pursuit of art, and you know all these aspects. It's really, I love it. I kind of love it too much. Am I loving it too much? Maybe I am. I don't know.
No such thing. No such thing. Oh, there's no such thing. I think if anything, uh, I think if anything, people don't express their love enough, like that honest love. So I think I definitely celebrate you for doing that, because it's it's great. It's great to be around people like you, or like how you mentioned, the other artists who are also like very excited about life, or excited about, I don't know, the specific color of the sunset that day, or the specific color of the ocean on that day, which I think there's nothing nicer than looking at the different
Well,
colors that just appear in life.
I agree, and I think here's the thing. I think a lot of people want to be artists, or they think they want to be artists,
Hmm.
because they want to be free.
Yeah.
That's what they really want, and so they see artists and they're like, "Oh, you're so free. You do what you want. You make your own rules. You make your own." And all of that is true, but the hard part is, you know, living the life of a gambler. I mean, we don't really know how any of this is going to go. You don't know whether you're going to make a living at it. You don't know whether it'll work. I mean, I remember going up and down the streets in New York City, when I was looking for a publisher, knocking on publisher doors. You used to be able to do that way back in the late 80s, early 1990s, when I was trying to get my books published. And I would just knock on the door. I'd have my portfolio, and I'd go up and down Madison Avenue, because that's where all the publishers were. Forrest, Strauss and Giroux, and Little Brown's in Boston. But I'd knock on the door. I'd say, I want to come in and talk to the art director. I want to show my work. And they'd say, well, do you have an appointment? I'd say, no, I don't, but I'm here. And they'd make a little room, and you'd walk in, and they'd say, well, I'll give you 5 minutes. And you show your portfolio. In those days, of course, long before computers, there were no JPEGs. You had to carry your own artwork in, actual artwork, and show it to the art director. And I got lucky. Art directors would see it, and they'd say, I really like your work. Maybe we could do a book someday. I don't know, we'll see. And then you double down and you send photographs of your latest idea, and that's how I got Simon and Schuster to publish my first book. And I mean, the funniest thing is that people would come up to me and say, how did you get an agent? How did you get your book published? Oh my God, you had a bestseller. What happened? How did you do? I didn't have an agent. I still don't. I never had one. And they never could believe this story. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to be willing, and try stuff.
Yeah, that really, it's very inspiring, and it reminds me of a quote that I like in Spanish, actually, but I'm going to translate it. And it's, the world belongs to the people who dare to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to, there are so many things in life that will put fear in your heart and will say, don't do that, have a backup plan. And that's fine, you can't have a backup plan, but you
Right.
won't know if things could go right if you don't even try, right? It's the whole, like, if you never ask, the answer is always no. So there's I feel like that's the soul of the entrepreneurial artist, I guess.
Yeah. I think also, I mean, I think about, why was I that way? Why was I so fearless? I was totally fearless. I'm telling you, I had no fear. I would
Mhm.
call anyone. I would knock on any door. I wasn't scared. I felt like, wait till you see what I'm doing. Wait till you see what I've got. Then you can say no. But you're not going to say no to me. You're not. I was so confident. Oh my God. And this may be a slightly inappropriate thing to say, but I also found I fall in love very easy, and I fell in love with a lot of girls in those days, and I felt that the more courage I had, the more my girlfriends loved what I was doing. Like, they loved that, so they encouraged me. So
Mhm.
they'd be like, well, Mark, you know what? You're trying. Good for you. You know, they were my best friends. And I think what I'm trying to say is that I guess we should surround ourselves with people who look at you and like you and feel that you are a nice person, and they don't want to backstab you. Don't hang out with people who give you bad energy. You know, stay with the people who avoid the toxic people. They're out there, and I think that's another important thing to say is that
Mhm.
if you're with people who believe in you, it's easier for you, you know, maybe to believe in yourself a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've had so many guests on the podcast too who talk about how like, oh, my wife is so amazing. It's thanks to her that I was able to pull this off and continue my career as an artist. Or oh, my husband, he helps me with the sales aspect. Or oh, I couldn't have done this maybe even without the support of my family or my close
Yeah,
friends who saw me, trying to make this work. And I really want to believe in myself. Having that extra voice of comfort to say, just go for it is, I think
yeah,
it's indispensable. And again, that brings it back to the word that you kept saying, which is connection, right?
right.
Which is such
Yeah,
an important thing. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we connect. I think it's a natural thing. People want to connect. They want to. We all do. It's a human need, right? And artists help us do that. It's, I mean, that's what artists. If you think about art. You know, I mean, people will you say to me, "Well, what are you going to do with art?" Jesus, I mean, well, look around you. Everything in your life is designed.
Mhm.
Everything, the desk, the house you live in, an architect did it. uh, the cups that you carry, somebody designs them. When you go to the hospital, there's all kinds of medical equipment that's been designed. Designers all throughout society. Don't diminish what arts can do. The arts are all around you, pal. They're freaking everywhere. They're in the book, they're in the way the book was designed. How about the writing, the literature? It's all around you. You turn on TV, every scene, there's a storyboard behind it. Somebody had to draw that out. Everything you're watching on TV. The only area where I don't see a lot of art is in sports, because that's a certain kind, an art form of its own.
Yep.
um, but you know, like, but that's fine. There is some art in sports, of course there is. But
Yeah.
my point being, um, yeah, it's connection. We're connecting all the time, and we use some kind of art form, whether it's language, right, or the language of a painting, the language of art, the language of poetry, the language of movies. We're all connecting. We're looking for the thing to talk about. You know, people used to, back when we had TV shows that everybody watched. You'd go into the office. I mean, I didn't go into the office, but my wife did, and she'd
Mhm.
say, you know, around the water cooler, people were talking about what was on TV the night before, if it was Seinfeld or something. Well, that's an art form. You're
Yeah.
talking about art, an art form, and it's connecting you together.
Yes. Yeah,
Bingo.
exactly. And it's that deep rooted human need for connection in the
Right.
end. Yeah. Yeah. Man. And we could go even deeper, but
On and on.
yeah. But yeah, by the way, do you have, because you mentioned also that you'd love to do your plein air workshops, do you have any upcoming workshops that you'd like to promote?
I don't have any workshops at the moment. I just finished one a couple weeks ago, but I would encourage people to sign up for my, uh, go to my website, markshasha.com, and sign up for my newsletter, which I love. Um, I love the way Fazo makes it so easy, and it's just so great. Just sign up for my newsletter, and then when I do a workshop, and I may do one in the fall, it depends on how a few things come together. um, I may do one in Portugal. I don't know, we'll see about next year. But I always have there's a lot of things going on with me that you can always connect to it. um, I have gallery exhibitions all the time. I'm in the Guild of Boston Artists on Boston, on Newbury Street, where I used to be a starving artist. Now I'm in the big gallery there called the Guild of Boston Artists, where I've been a member for at least 15 years. And you can see my work also at the Copley Society, or the North Shore Art Association, the uh, the Marine Arts Gallery in Bonita Springs, Palmer Avenue Fine Arts in Sarasota, Florida, the Hughes Skelly Gallery in Balboa, California, Newport Beach. the Illume Gallery in Phillipsburg, Montana. And I'm in museums like the Mary Hill Museum. You can see my work on their permanent display, their permanent exhibition in the American Wing, and also at the San Angelo Museum of Art. Um, so I'm all over the place. And of course, you can see my books, Night of the Moon Jellies, and wherever you buy books. The Hall of Beasts is another book that did pretty well for a while. I have my videos. I can show you those.
Yeah.
The Golden Hour with Streamline Publishing. My video, How to Do Shimmering Light, with again with Streamline. The Hall of Beasts, one of the turned out to be an autobiographical book. So if you that is fiction, but it turned out to be autobiographical, and I won't spoil the ending for that. So I don't know. But I'm all over the country, um, videos and stuff, and I go to the plein air events, so look for them.
Awesome.
Oh, I will be one of the painters at the Cape Ann Plein Air event in October here in the Rockport area, Rockport, Massachusetts. And this is an idyllic, beautiful little town in New England where it's one of the originators of plein air painting in the United States. You've all seen those kitschy the kitschy art where there's a lighthouse and a seagull and a little sailboat. Well, it all started in Rockport. So artists still gather there, and that's where I'll be in October. But other than that, I don't have any plan to. It's all studio work this summer and into the fall.
Awesome. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Mark. And of course, I will be including all of your links in the show notes. So anyone who wants to sign up can find a link really quickly by just going to the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, Mark. This was
My
such an
pleasure.
inspiring conversation. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for everything. Take
Yeah,
care.
of course. You too.